Okay, well, let's get technical a little bit here. Let's talk about control systems. Distributed control systems and PLCs have both been in commercial industrial use since the 1960s. And the the thing is that has always struck me is that a lot of these, especially the earlier controllers, have tended to outlive the useful life that people thought they were going to have in the first place. So great value to the buyer, of course, but it does create some problems with not only support and replacement, but also with the engineers and the operators themselves. Many of the original designers and integrators of some of those control systems have long since retired. And when someone like you attempts to upgrade or replace those controls, what kind of schematics or drawings or lack thereof are you typically using?
Yeah, this is definitely one of those things. It's like there was no forethought in that, right? And what I found, I had one particular project I had where we're going from an old Honeywell system to control logics, and all I had to go off of was PDFs of the printed out program and notepad files of the configuration of the different blocks, and I had to go through and figure it all out and replicate that in logic. And it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, that's sloppy and that's kind of not the greatest, and it made FAT fun, let me tell you.
Right.
uh, I think it's just one of those things that as controls people, you kind of rise to the occasion. You take what you can get and then you make it work. It's
Mhm.
almost like we're magicians. We're playing with some magic, making it work, right?
Right.
And that's just one of the things. Is it difficult? Absolutely. But honestly, I almost feel like the more difficult it is, the more satisfying when you get it working, right? So yeah, yeah, it's absolutely difficult. And it's schematics. You're not going to have schematics. That's hilarious, right? From the '60s, no, right? You might have someone be able to tell you, vaguely what it's supposed to do or vaguely how it's wired up, but you're not going to get any of that. It's almost a redesign in a lot of cases.
Right. There's DCS, there's PLC, um, and traditionally there have been companies that were, that you might categorize more as one or the other. I'm talking about suppliers. But over the years, and especially recently, we're seeing a lot of DCS suppliers who are introducing PLCs or improving their PLCs, and by the same token, some PLC or PAC people that are getting into the DS or the DCS market as well.
Hmm.
Uh, how has that line started to blur between PLCs and DCS? I mean, there's companies that have developed PLCs that work with their DCS for specific applications, and then now even with edge computing starting to become even more popular, how has that even further blurred that line between, well, what is a PLC and what is a DCS,
Hmm.
and are they singular or are they these now combination control systems? How do you approach that, and how do you tackle that?
I think it's a very interesting thing to think about that because honestly, I kind of felt like for a long time, DCS was a thing in the past because all I'd worked with was PLCs. And it wasn't until I got to Hargrove, which is a process shop, that I even realized, okay, no, DCSs are very much abundant and out there, and
Yeah.
they're a big player. There's probably way more DCS than PLCs, honestly. And it wasn't until I got that exposure that I realized, okay, well, there is a line between the two. There is a difference between the two. And like you said, there's some that are offering the other offering, right? But you have some that are known. Hey, this is what you're known for. Like for example, Honeywell's known as a DCS, right? Whereas Rockwell's known as a PLC. But now you're getting to the point where they kind of want to put their foot in both markets.
True.
To me, from the plant standpoint is going to be the differentiator because I feel like it's a different mindset, a different approach between DCS and PLC. Not necessarily capabilities so much, but the fact that if you design something in a DCS and then you go to PLC, there's a lot of things that don't make sense, and vice versa.
Hmm.
And so when you're keeping that in mind, the training or the learning curve is going to be a lot different, I think, if you're going to try to transition from one to the other. um, it's not going to be a simple platform change. It's a completely rewire your brain on how you consider this control system.
Sure.
And I would say if all you got is PLCs, it really doesn't make sense to go to DCS. But on DCS side, you kind of need to know some PLC stuff, because some of the OEMs that you deal with that might bring you an auxiliary type or skid type thing, that's probably going to be a PLC. It's not going to be DCS. So you have to
Yep.
figure out how to integrate that into your DCS, right? So that's kind of where I've seen. And then you're talking about learning the lines even further. You got some edge type computing. That's really making it even more variable, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.